Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating piece of commentary from Beck today, and it presents this stark, almost jarring contrast in how Independence Day is being celebrated in America. Based on his on-the-ground observations, we're going to look at two entirely different gatherings. One is highly localized, meticulously structured, and the other? Well, it's a colossal, unprecedented spectacle in the nation's capital. By unpacking this commentary, we're going to explore what these wildly contrasting events might actually suggest about our current cultural divide.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll set up this tale of two celebrations. Then, we'll look at the specific schedule of an event out in California before pivoting over to the DC mega event and its literal record-breaking fireworks. Finally, we'll examine the speaker's claims regarding media silence, politics, and some pretty powerful historical echoes.
Section 1. A Tale of Two Celebrations, Contrasting Visions of Independence Day.
Right into Section 2, the California schedule, a hyper-local focus.
So the speaker hones in on El Cajon, California, where the local mayor is hosting this highly structured, heavily community-driven gathering. Just look at how this timeline actually flows. At 5:45 p.m., the program kicks off with a tribal blessing. Then, right at 6 p.m., there's a welcome and a land acknowledgement. At 6:10 p.m., a tribal invocation, followed closely at 6:20 p.m. by the Black National Anthem. And from 6:35 p.m. onward, the schedule dedicates these very precise blocks of time to different community stories, moving rhythmically from local tribal stories to the Latino community, to the Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community, then the LGBTQIA+ community, and finally Black and African community stories. It's an incredibly regimented approach, giving very specific community groups the microphone way before any fireworks even begin.
And for the speaker, this specific schedule highlights the cultural pivot perfectly. After reading through that segmented California event, he offers this reaction. I don't think we live in the same country anymore. You see, for him, this schedule represents a fundamental shift in how the holiday is even conceptualized, and he uses this deep sense of alienation to set the stage for what he's witnessing on the exact opposite side of the country.
Which brings us to Section 3, the DC mega event, an unprecedented spectacle.
Now, the source points out that anyone familiar with D.C. wouldn't even recognize it right now. The White House is fenced off, the Ellipse is closed, Lafayette Park is restricted, all to make way for massive built-in infrastructure and actual stadium seating right on the National Mall. The scale is literally staggering. It's described as a 1,000-acre event space, set up almost like a modern World's Fair meant to represent all 50 states. We're talking about NASA bringing in experimental prototypes and a literal moonscape to show what living on the moon will be like. Look up, and there are planned flyovers from massive jets, including the new Air Force One, the Navy Blue Angels, and the Air Force Thunderbirds. Look back down, and there is an actual live rodeo happening right on the National Mall.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the sheer math. Section 4, Record-Breaking Fireworks by the Numbers.
Let's break down the data behind this DC event because, honestly, the numbers are hard to even fathom. A typical small-town fireworks show uses somewhere between 300 and 1,000 shells. A large city, say Dallas or Chicago, might push that up to maybe 3,000 to 8,000 shells. Up until this event, the biggest annual show in the entire country was the Macy's 4th of July fireworks in New York City, dropping an incredible 80,000 shells. But this DC event, it is attempting a Guinness World Record with 850,000 shells. Let that sink in. That is over 10 times the size of the largest fireworks show ever recorded in America. According to the source, not even China's most spectacular shows have reached this size.
And get this, it's not just the crazy quantity, it's the physical size of the fireworks themselves. They're launching 16-inch shells. To put that into perspective, these specific fireworks travel 2.5 miles straight up into the air. When they burst, they are 4 football fields wide. That is 1/4 mile wide for a single firework. And they're launching all of these from 8 separate stations strategically placed to bring the DC monuments to life.
So, a Guinness World Record attempt like this obviously requires some serious funding. The speaker estimates the budget for this incredible display at $16 million. To highlight just how abnormal this is, he contrasts it with his estimate of the previous year's DC fireworks budget, which he pegged at somewhere around $100,000 to $160,000. The financial leap here is absolutely astronomical.
Which leads perfectly into Section 5, Media Silence and Politics, the core grievance.
So, after detailing all of these completely jaw-dropping facts, the speaker pivots to a central grievance regarding the press. The core question posed by his commentary is simple, but it's really forceful. Why aren't we hearing about this? How is it even possible that an event of this magnitude, a 1,000-acre World's Fair, dwarfing everything anyone has ever done to celebrate the United States, is seemingly just flying under the radar of the mainstream media?
So the crucial point is how the source actually answers that question. He argues unequivocally that this media silence is rooted in deep political bias. The commentary claims that the press harbors so much hatred for Donald Trump that they are willing to completely ignore and bury what should otherwise be a historic, unifying, and totally spectacular national celebration.
And this perceived political tension, well, it isn't just in the media. The speaker observes it playing out right on the sidewalks of D.C. He notes that the area is strangely empty, suggesting that local Democrats in the DMV area are intentionally avoiding the celebration altogether. But on the flip side, he observes a stark partisan tell among those who actually are attending. He notes that simply wearing an American flag has become an overt indicator that someone is a MAGA supporter. According to him, patriotism itself has literally become a visual proxy for political affiliation on the ground.
Section 6. The flag keeps flying. Historical echoes.
Despite the heat, the empty sidewalks, and this alleged media blackout, the speaker is scheduled to teach the Declaration of Independence at 2 p.m., and he takes comfort in the attendees he calls insiders who are showing up no matter what. To describe their dedication, he draws a pretty powerful parallel to the shelling of Fort McHenry. As the story goes, during the bombardment, the American flag was taking heavy fire and was in danger of falling. Because a fallen flag was the universal signal of surrender, soldiers literally piled their bodies together, taking incoming fire just to hold the flag up. When one fell, another took their place. The speaker compares the attendees of his speech to those soldiers, saying these modern insiders are the exact kind of people who will never let that flag fall.
From a hyper-segmented schedule in California, all the way to a massive, politically charged mega event in D.C., wrapped in record-breaking fireworks and alleged media silence, this source paints a really vivid picture of a fractured national holiday, and it leaves us with a vital question to consider. What do these wildly contrasting celebrations and the deeply entrenched narrative surrounding them say about the future of American unity? It is definitely a lot to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.